So whatever dividends you get, simply buy more shares of the company, you wind up with the position you'd have if you were not paying dividends at all. Does that make sense? That was their argument. Now, there are a couple of issues here, okay? And this has been an argument in finance since that time period. A couple of things not considered here are transaction costs. Because if I'm in the first scenario and I have the stock and I want dividends, I have to call my broker and I have to sell the stock to get the dividend. To create the homemade dividends, I got to sell stock. And that was a bigger issue in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. But now, transaction costs for buying and selling shares is small for us as well. Even us odd lot traders, it's even small. And so it's become less of an issue. The second argument, concerned with their theory, is the tax issue. When I buy and sell stock, if I buy stock at $100 and it goes to $110, I've got a stock worth $110. What is the tax implications for me? Nothing. None. But as soon as I sell that stock, then in that time period, that year, I will owe taxes on the gain that I had from that stock. Okay? And so if I'm going to create dividends, I have tax implications from doing so. And if I have a company I've invested in and they pay dividends all the time, then for me to take the dividend and go back and buy the stock, I pay tax on the dividend, okay, so then I've got less money. And then I got to pay transaction costs to buy the stock. I get nailed twice, if you will, to create my own. But once again, with capital gains tax, that tax is smaller than it used to be. So if you hold the stock over a year's time, you can then take advantage of capital gains tax as opposed to ordinary tax. So that's just the argument that's going on about whether dividends matter or not. Two other issues, two other theories out there. One is called the clientele effect. Clientele effect. And basically the clientele effect says that whatever your policy is, dividend policy, don't change it. Whatever you're doing now, keep doing that. And the reason is because your clients, your investors have come to identify you, and they're investing in you because of what you do. So if you pay dividends, they're buying your stock because you pay dividends. And if you are a capital appreciation firm, you pay no dividends at all, you're plowing the back end of the business, making the price go up and up and up, they're buying your stock because they want that. And if you start paying dividends all of a sudden, they're going to wonder, who are you? And I don't want that anymore. I don't want to pay taxes right away. I want to control my taxes. Or if I want income regularly with dividends, you stop paying dividends and thinking, hey, wait a minute, I like the dividend flow. Why aren't you doing that? So you have a clientele that is used to what you're doing. So they're there for a reason. If you start changing your policy, you will lose your current clientele, and your new clientele might not really believe you're going to stop paying dividends or keep paying dividends. You have to regain their trust. It's like in the retail market, you've got two philosophies: every day same price, every day low price, and you've got deep discounting. Okay? And if you are one or the other, if you flip back and forth, people will not know what you are. You will not know what you're expecting to get. Okay? And it's the same kind of thing if you have a clientele. People know what you are, understand what you are, and they respond to that. Okay. The next thing I'd like to share in dividends is the process of declaring a dividend and paying a dividend.
Sorry, what was that?
This is the dividend payment process. So in the dividend payment process, there are 4 dates we're going to be concerned about. I'm not going to give them to you in order, but I'll give them to you in order eventually, okay? So eventually, you're going to get paid a dividend, right? Well, that's the last date, okay, in our series here, chronological order of events. You're going to get paid a dividend at some point. The very first date, okay, in your chronological order is going to be when they declare a dividend. Now, a firm is not obliged to pay dividends. They're not legally required to do so. But once they declare a dividend, once they publicly state this is the dividend amount per share, then it becomes a liability on that declaration date. They owe the money, and they have to pay it. And to not do so means they'll be in default of that liability. So your first date in time is the declaration date, and your last date in time is the payment date. Well, what happened is that, people would declare a dividend some date over here, and then they want to pay it in this date over here. And the concern years ago was that we need time to process the payments and to make sure we have the investors of record accounted for. Make sense? Because, you can declare this, and then at some point you've got to say, okay, who am I going to pay it to? Because the stock's buying and selling every day. So who gets the dividend? They said, okay, fine, we're going to have a date of record. Okay, so the date of record is the next to last, the third date. Yes, we're going to have a date of record. And we're going to say that you must be a shareholder on this date of record. But as it turns out, okay, it said, we need some time to calculate the date of record. And so we need to say that the dividend will actually go ex-dividend. The dividend the stock will be without the dividend 2 business days prior to the date of record. So remember, we've got the declaration date at the beginning, we've got the payment date at the end, and usually it's somewhere like a couple of weeks before the payment date is the date of record. And then 2 business days before the date of record is the ex-dividend date. It's EX dash dividend date.
2 business days before date of record?
Correct. So you're looking at the 31st of May is the date of record. And if that's on a Friday and there are no holidays in there, then 2 days before that, on Wednesday, is your ex-dividend date. And that's the date, the first day that the dividend and the stock are separated. You follow me?
2 days before the date of record?
Correct. The ex-dividend date is 2 business days before the date of record, and that's when the stock is ex-dividend. It's the ex-dividend date.
The first day of
stock
what?
and the dividend are separated.
The ex-dividend
First day of
date
stock, yes.
is the first day that the stock and the dividend are separated. So if I own the stock on the ex-dividend date, the dividend is no longer attached to it. Let's say that the stock is a $15 stock, and there's a $2 declared dividend. Then on the ex-dividend date, the price will fall from the previous day from $15 to $13. It falls at the same amount as the dividend amount because it's worth $2 less than it was the day before. So if I were to ask you, okay, if I were to ask you, what day would you have to own the stock to get the dividend? What's the last day? Can you figure it out what I told you? What's the last day you could own the stock and get the dividend?
The date
The
of
date of
record.
record.
That's not correct.
Ex-dividend
I know.
date.
Bizarre. Hang on, bear with me here, okay?
What was
Here's
the
the
question?
declaration
It's the
date,
ex-dividend date, right?
almost.
Oh,
The day
So what
was
before
the
the
question
It
ex-dividend.
is, see, that's it. It is the day before the ex-dividend date, the business day before, the ex-dividend date, is the last day you can buy the stock and get the dividend. Because the day, on the ex-dividend date, they're separated.
It's laws that you could own the stock and get the dividend? Like, wait, sorry.
Okay,
Say
say
that
that
one more
again.
time.
Day
Yes.
before the ex-dividend day is the
Did you
last
say own or
day.
buy? You said
Is the
both.
last day that you can, at the close of the ex-dividend,
Business day before.
At the
the-
close of day, close of business, on the day before the ex-dividend day. If you own the stock, you get the dividend.
Okay.
If you buy it on the ex-dividend date the next morning, you don't get the dividend.
So you could buy on the, up to the bell.
Yes,
On
you
the-
could buy a few minutes before the bell closes on the day before the ex-dividend date and own the stock, and you would get the dividend. As soon as the market closes, the price of that dividend, that stock will drop by the amount of the dividend.
So once they announce the dividend.
And the next morning, I could sell it.
Yeah.
On the ex-dividend, I could sell the stock, and I still get the dividend because I had it at the close of business on the day before the ex-dividend day. Let me give this to you, okay?
So,
You take one of those?
So.
Who came up with this stuff?
I know.
It's a lot of speculation.
I didn't do this, it's not my fault.
Who came
So
up
does
with
that
this
create a lot
rules?
of, is that create a speculative market
That's what I wanna
for
know.
people? Like that they.
People who are involved in it know,
Know.
yes, and so it's not a big deal if they know what's going on, it's routine for them, yes. And so there's no arbitrage possibilities of buying and selling on those 2 days.
But if you know, like if you think the stock's gonna go up, they're paying a dividend, they're doing well,
Well,
so.
if
you
you ever
buy
think the
stock.
stock's gonna go up, you should buy.
Yeah.
And if you think it's gonna go down, you should sell or sell short.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Okay, what I've handed out to you has examples of dates on there. You see those at the top?
Did you get this?
Yeah.
Rogers?
I did.
Savannah, get one?
I got two actually.
Well, even better.
Oh,
Okay.
you did?
Oh,
Oh,
That's okay.
I have two as well, so we'll just keep those.
So you see how those dates work? I'll give an example there of May 31st being the date of record. You see that? Now, with current technology, this could all be fixed. They could do away with all of that. They could have a declaration date and have a date of record and a payment date. And almost now, the payment date and record come up with the same. They can almost say, we'll pay you on the date of record almost. Because you know how fast payments occur now, but right away. They can electronically make payments. But this is their system. Listen, for a long time, the stock market was bought and sold in eighths of a share, okay? And they had fractions as opposed to decimals. That was only changed 15 years ago or so. So they're coming around. So what will I ask of you? I will ask you to give me these 4 dates in chronological order. That's one thing you'll need to be able to do. Date of record, ex-dividend date, declaration date, ex-dividend date, date of record, payment date.
We'll need to be able to identify those.
Yes.
To order them.
And to place them in order, that's correct. Also, I will ask you the question, 2 questions. What is the last day I can buy the stock and still get the dividend?
Day
And you will
before
say to
Thanksgiving
me,
Day.
the day before, technically a business day, but I'll take the day
close
before.
of business day,
That's right.
one business.
Technically, the close of the trading day before the ex-dividend day. So what date would that be on the example here?
28th.
The 28th, correct, as long as that's a business day. But I won't be that particular on the exam, I'll take the 28th.
So the ex-dividend date, I'm a little not following along. What, I understand the whole process of figuring out what, but,
Think of it like this, okay?
The
This is
annou-
where,
the
this is where
announce-
you've got,
okay.
on the 28th, okay? This is a
Mhm.
bad example.
okay,
On 28th, you've got a married couple.
okay.
To close the 28th, they're divorced, and they're ex on the next day. They're ex-married, ex-wife, ex-husband, next day. Same thing, dividend, they're married together, okay? On the 28th. Close of that business day, they're separated after that. They're ex-dividend. The stock and the dividend are separated. And typically, the price of that stock will drop exactly by the amount of the dividend, unless there's other good or bad news going on. That could change it either way. But that price would drop by the amount of the dividend overnight.
Do companies let you know when these dividend dates are?
They declare them.
Oh, they-
Once
oh,
they
that's
declare
right.
it, all those
Okay.
dates are known, yes.
Got it.
They'll give you the record and give you the payment date.
I get you.
Yep, so everybody knows what it is, no surprise. Yep.
So the date of record and the ex-dividend date, wait a minute, what comes first?
Well, look at the handout that I gave you, and there
I
should be
am.
dates there.
The 29th and then the 31st.
Okay.
29th is the ex-dividend date, and so I didn't give you the 28th as a date because it doesn't have a name. Okay, I mean, you could make one up.
Last day of buying stock.
Yes,
Okay.
the last day to buy stock with the dividend on it, I don't know.
I might,
Yes,
this
sir.
might help me out.
So the
Please.
date of
Okay.
record's the payment date.
So,
Payment date is the payment
No,
date.
I mean, is the date that you have to have it.
Yeah, see, this is where that definition, the title of it is confusing, because ideally, they'd have a date of record, and that would be the day you own the stock, that day would be the day you get the dividend.